Well, joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss this and much more, I have energy editor of New Telegraph newspaper, Adiola Yusuf. Good to have you on the breakfast show this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Now, we look at the pattern we've seen on the international market in terms of oil prices and the movement we've seen so far. From middle of last week up until today, we've still seen oil prices consistently drop. And even the record we saw yesterday was just a slight margin of improvement, which does not necessarily translate to much. Comparing that to today's figures, looking at the Suez Canal and also the drop that's also come down to about 2%. What do you make of the movement we've seen so far?
Okay, it's what I call the vicissitude of the oil price. And with, everyone that has, been following the prices of crude at the international market will know that the price has never been static. It goes up, it comes down. Depending on surrounding scenarios, you will see that this one was caused by rising hope in COVID-19 vaccines and issues around Europe. So we will continue to have it up and down, you understand? But this one, the latest one we have now, it shouldn't be, because the month is not ended yet, it shouldn't be a joyful news per se, because of the fact that penultimate week, the price of crude, across the $70 per barrel mark. So before the end of transaction today, you wouldn't know what is going to happen. But hopefully, and generally looking at it, talking about Nigeria now is a good news, as well as not a very, very good news for Nigeria, depending, based on the situation that neglect of infrastructural development over the years has caused Nigeria. Looking at the 2021 budget of the country, it was benchmarked at $45 per barrel. So with the Brent price at the moment selling at $61.62, it shows an excess revenue of about $16 for Nigeria. But if you look at it very, very well as well, it is not sharing this, because we're looking at the $70 that the price, the commodity sold last week. It shows that Nigerian revenue has reduced between last week and this week. But because looking at it in another way, because the country has a sorry state of refineries, we imported petroleum products, it is definitely going to affect the prices of petroleum products in the country. So if we have the price sustained at that level, it will mean that there should be a reduction in the template, price of the petroleum products.
And you just touched on the fact that we still have our refineries not at optimal levels. I'm sure you heard of reports that the federal government is looking towards investing 1.5 billion naira into the Port Harcourt refinery. There are also hopes that even if we want to have new refineries, that will cost well over 12 billion naira and a whole lot more. But at the end of the day, these are national assets that ought to be maintained, and maintaining them is quite expensive. Not producing it even costs us much more. But how then do we now translate this pricing template? Because Nigerians are looking out now. It's almost the end of the month of March. The next price template is going to come, or fears of another announcement will come. So there's a certain feeling of uncertainty. We don't know what's coming next. That's the average sentiment across the board. And the pattern is that, let me just stock as much fuel as possible so that I don't have to buy much more expensive, irrespective of the drop on the international market.
Okay, this is very, very unfortunate, rather unfortunate. On this program and on several radio and television programs that I've featured, I've advocated for at least a 3-month pricing template. Having the pricing template change, every month, will naturally send some kind of signals to the buyers.
But that's impossible, because the federal government in the 2021 budget says that there's no room for subsidy, although we know what market playouts are occurring right now. And then we just have to go with the time. Independent marketers, major marketers will tell you, as the market moves, prices have to change. So we can't have the 3-month window.
Okay, that's established. The pricing template we are talking about, particularly the one released by PPPRA last month that caused confusion, was advisory pricing template. Pricing template to show that this is the range. You have OPEC setting basket. We have other agencies in America, in Europe, and across the world setting pricing, template that, okay, this is the amount this will. So based on, surrounding circumstances. So it's advisory. It's not supposed to be something that Nigerians should be agitated about because of the situation we have found ourselves. But the point I'm just trying to raise is that the pricing template should be done in 3 months. Having the pricing template change every month will naturally send that, panic buying signal to every Nigerian. Of course, we know that in the situation we have found ourselves is a situation in which we have refineries that are not working. We have to ship every crude at 445,000 barrels, to refineries in Europe and bring in refined products. So whether we like it or not, the prices of crude at international market will still play a key role in the prices that the petrol product will be sold in Nigeria. So I've advocated that we should try as much as possible. Even that advisory pricing template should be done in 3 months. Let's have a price, because all these indices that they have been using to set those templates, are still static. They are still within the international market. So we have known all those indices that we have been using to set this price. So it's always better to have it in 3 months. So that will prevent the panic buying and the crisis that usually trail monthly change of the pricing template.
Okay, Mr. Adeola Yusuf, we'll just take a quick break, and then when we come back, the conversation continues in just a moment. We're still looking at a feature on the show today on the business segment, looking at the dwindling oil price trend we've seen so far since last week up until now. I have in the studio with me the energy editor of New Telegraph, Adeola Yusuf. Good to have you once again staying with us.
My pleasure.
Now, let's talk about the register we've seen across U.S. West Texas Intermediate, Brent crude, and then for the OPEC baskets. Now, the translation of this dwindling price trend we've seen so far, how does this impact the Nigerian economy, especially as we're looking at the next price peg? What do you think will play out?
Okay, let me quickly talk about the pricing template, because that was where we were coming from. Because definitely this is going to affect the pricing template. A few weeks ago, we had issues that led to a fuel crisis across the country when PPPRO released the advisory pricing template. As an agency that has a constitutional, expectation to determine, to advise on this is the amount, the product will be sold based on surrounding circumstances. They came up with that pricing template.
209
and because of the trust deficit in Nigeria, the journalists that reported that advisory pricing template did not trust the government because they knew that naturally what has been following that release of pricing template like that is hike in fuel price. They reported that PPPRA has said that there is hike in fuel price. Nigerians, because of the trust deficit, they do not trust the government. They knew that will happen. They started panic buying. The marketers, because of the lack of trust that is happening within that cycle, started shutting their gates against motorists, and that created crisis. So now looking at this, Nigeria has what I call a special kind of deregulation. If we have allowed the market force or the market forces to have been, playing, freely in the market, this news is supposed to be very good news for Nigeria, despite the fact that the crude oil price is coming down, because of the fact that we have a benchmark that we have put for the prices of crude in our 2021 budget. I've said it earlier, it's $45 per barrel. Even with the Brent crude price of $61.65 or 62 cents, it still shows that Nigerian still has about $16.62 on every additional on every barrel that the country has. So it's supposed to be a good news.
Adeola, wrapping up your thoughts now at this point in time, what do you think would be the next price peg? We've had 162 naira stay for quite a bit. What do you think would be the next price range for petrol?
Okay, it's going to at this moment be somewhat difficult because of the fact that 2 weeks ago we still have about $71 per barrel price for crude. Now we are having $61 per barrel for crude. So we are still expecting before the end of the month, we will still anything can still happen because the prices. I mean, the crude oil is priced based on
inching up closer to the 200 naira peg.
It is still possible, inching to 200 naira peg. But mind you, we have to still re-emphasize that Nigerian government and the labor union are still at the negotiation table. And NMPs have said that nothing will happen to the price of petroleum products.
Thank you very much for your time on the Breakfast Show today. Adiola Yusuf, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources has also said that, well, there's availability of the product and they have the interest of Nigerians at heart. So whatever increments will come will just be a slight margin.